Get an erection.
Shake a leg like
I'm
Morning.
gonna come over and get a hug from you, baby.
How are you doing?
Oh, we're back, man. How you doing this morning?
Doing good. Better now.
You're so sweet. You are so sweet. I think I'm gonna go over here and sit next to you.
How many tags have we get now?
Do what now?
We're not limited to the tags.
Yeah, what's your other?
That's going to be set up by their rules.
got
We basically give the department that authority.
So this bill's just supposed to be the Department of Revenue?
Department of Revenue authority, plus also giving the used car board the authority the DOR the authority to share data with the DOR. I mean DOR with the used car board. So numbers.
DOR.
Is this what else you got going on today? That's how I feel.
VIN numbers, no personal data.
Is that, and then changing what they gotta have.
Of 250. We need to put that language back in there.
Thank you.
I thought we
Where
did.
were they at? I looked all over. I said,
Right here.
no, I'm talking
yeah.
about.
I don't know. Peyton just went down.
Yeah, she must have been in your file.
I think so.
That must have been.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
So
Thank
line
you.
347.
Hey, Miss Bennett, how you doing? Good morning, everybody. We got quite a few bills on the agenda. We need to get started because somebody has this room right after us. So I'm going to ask Representative Mathis, so he'll open in prayer for us this morning. What number are you?
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for everybody that's here today. Watch over their families. We just thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of Georgia here in motor vehicles. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
All right, and I will be amending the agenda. We had a bill sent back from Rules yesterday, House Bill 296. We have a substitute. Vice Chair Gaines, would you want to come up and tell us what those changes are? It's on the digital driver's license. Made just a couple small changes to that bill. And you should have the sub in your packet. Tell us what LC number we're working off of. It will be. How about now?
How about now? There you go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. LC 394667S.
Yes.
Is that what everybody
That's
said?
it. That's what we have.
Oh, the only changes to the bill were just clarifying in a few different agencies that wanted to make sure that they were not included because they don't have the technology at this point. So that just includes fishing licenses, hunting licenses, driver's license out in those areas, and then polls. And so that's just the changes. Is even though they can't currently be used, just clarifying that.
Okay. Some later date we might come back and add those once they have the
That's right.
the technology to do that. We do have a question. Number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And not so much to the actual change, but around line 26 in section 1, it talks about a physical format. Are we not trying to get away from always having physical and going to the.
And that's
digital
I
as
think
well.
that's where we're headed with this technology, but I think they're not quite ready to do that yet. So this will be law enforcement for us, state patrols on the side of the road, and that I think is where we're headed with this right now. But we'll probably come back later and remove that.
All right, well, at the proper time.
Now would be the proper time. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. You got your sub. We're good to go. All right, next bill on the agenda is House Bill 204. And we do have some people signed up to speak to that. Raise your hand. Well, they won't. They're here. I talked to them. I didn't.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm back to present House Bill 204 LC 550367. This bill is a simple bill. It strikes the language that it amends the law to remove the movers of household goods from under the Department of Public Safety, basically to allow them to charge whatever rates the market will bear. Currently, they are restricted as to what they can charge. And so that is the bill. And of course, the intent is to let the marketplace work and let people in a competitive environment charge what they need to charge to move household goods. So I'll yield for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry. Do we have any questions for the author at this time? Number 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the cap now, the current cap?
I'm not sure that I know what the current cap is. Is Lee Lemke here?
Well, Mr. Vice Chair, I've got there's somebody here with the motor carrier or public safety, I think, signed up to speak. Mike could speak to that.
Okay.
If we let them come up and if you want to come to the podium and speak to that. And they can give you, I guess, a little history. You're welcome to sit at the table if you need to, or the podium, whichever's. All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's always an honor to come and speak with all of you, and we'll provide just a little brief backstory just so you guys can understand exactly what the bill is and kind of why we have these tariff rates in place. Just a brief history. From 1931 to 2002, the Georgia Public Service Commission regulated the household good industry in Georgia. The commission was responsible for the issuance of certificates of public necessity starting in 1983 and establishing rates, making procedures for all motor carriers. 2002 to 2005, the Department of Motor Vehicle Safety assumed the responsibility for intrastate household good operations. 2005 to 2012, Georgia Public Service Commission reassumed responsibility for intrastate household good operations. In 2012 to current, Georgia Department of Public Safety assumed responsibility for the intrastate household good operations with the passage of Motor Carrier Act of 2012. During this time period, there have been 6 maximum rate tariffs and 3 rate increases. In 2018, maximum rate tariff was increased by 15%. 2022, it was increased by 10% and was increased again most recently in 2024 by an additional 10%. The department is currently in the process of having an analyst performed on the household good industry in Georgia to provide data for possible future rate evaluations. That's kind of what we're currently doing now. To give you a little bit of a model on what other states are doing, Alabama, their household good carriers must register with Alabama Public Service Commission. The carriers must submit a tariff to the commission for approval. In Florida, carriers must register with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. The carrier sets their own rates and are to abide by the amount in the estimate or contract. North Carolina is similar to our model. In South Carolina, carriers must register with the South Carolina Public Service Commission. Carriers must submit a maximum rate scheduled for the commission for approval. And in Tennessee, they will register with the Department of Revenue. There, no set rate. However, the carrier must provide the shipper with an estimate. If the cost of services exceed the estimate by more than 10% or $25, whichever is greater, the carrier shall notify the shipper as soon as possible after the overage is determined and before delivery. Carrier must also notify the Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Division of any or above stated instances with an explanation of what caused the difference from the estimate. So basically what we've kind of determined, just looking at other models, is there is some sense of process or some level of integrity that they continue to try to keep with just kind of understanding where the tariff rates are, where the prices are set. Again, we kind of assumed this, over the past 2 years when I took over, and what we did is, I believe the best avenue, if it stays under statute, is to have an analysis done to ensure that we kind of look at what the inflation, if an increase is appropriate, or if it should sustain, or if it should decrease. That's what we currently do as far as our position on it. We don't have any data that can really tell us, or studies that say there's a positive or a negative impact if the language was removed, and so our position is pretty much neutral at this point.
Do you have any questions?
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Number 12.
So, I guess I'm going to come back to the chairman. Can you kind of tell us why you brought the bill? If we don't have that analysis available.
Okay, we don't have any questions for our speaker at the podium. I
don't know who can answer it. I mean, you're saying that you're neutral.
Yes, ma'am, we are.
And you're saying that if it doesn't pass, you would prefer to have an analysis. Am I hearing that correct? To determine whether it should be to stay the same, go up, or decrease.
We always feel better with data.
Right.
That's why we kind of make our decisions. That's how we allocate resources. We look at things to help us make a determination to where when we allocate something, or we do something that we have something that gives us some concrete and backs us up on why we make the decisions we do. I think that's just in our DNA. So I don't know if it's inappropriate not to have any type of data to suggest it, but I will say that's typically how we gauge, how we move forward, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you very much. I guess, Mr. Chair.
Yes, you have a question for the author. Now, I think that's all the questions we see. Thank you for that
Yes,
information. Thank you for coming this morning.
Absolutely.
Are there any further questions for the author?
I'm going to give a little history.
That would be great.
For the benefit of the committee, a little bit of history on this. These tariffs were set by the Public Service Commission for years. In 2022, we created the Department of Motor Vehicle Safety as one department that basically handled everything from driver's licensing to all of these functions. At that time, there was some discussion, and this was 23 years ago. At that time, we discussed about basically deregulating them, because this was really a pain in the side to the Public Service Commission. They didn't put a lot of input into it, and we considered deregulating at that time. But when we shifted it over to Department of Motor Vehicle Safety, we just shifted it over. Then that department was abolished during a former governor's administration, and then that's how public safety wound up with this. And I really don't. This day and time, these people are in a competitive basis. So at the proper time, I'd like to be recognized for a motion.
Now, we do have number 2 for Chairman Prince.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it not true, based on the information that we received here and Chairman Powell's comments, that basically what we're doing is deregulating this, but we still have the opportunity later, if we decide that prices are being outrageous and we have some more data, that we can always come back and possibly regulate this?
I believe that would be correct.
Thank you.
Chairman Powell, now would be the time, sir.
I move that we pass this bill, 204, with a favorable recommendation.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right. 2 down. All right, then I think the bill that Representative McLean's been waiting for. If you can present it from right there if you want to, or you want to go out.
Mr. Chairman, your pleasure.
House Bill 369.
Well, 255.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 255. I read the wrong one.
Chairman Prince has asked me to go down, I think.
No, we don't have time.
Yeah, but I better hear it run. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm bringing you all back HB 255, and we're reading from LC 394662S.
Yes, that's the one we have.
Yes. And what this bill does is it provides a specially licensed plates honoring Southern University alumni. The funds raised from this sale of this will go to the Atlanta Metropolitan Chapter of the Southern University Alumni Federation of Georgia. Just to give you some background, in the 23-24 year, 25-26 year, over roughly almost 1,000 students from the Georgia area has applied, and about 500 has been accepted to Southern University. They also sponsored a $20,000 scholarship over the past 2 years. So they've got probably about there's roughly 7,000 Southern University alumni live in the Georgia area. And in fact, the students in the last 4 or 5 years has formed a campus organization called the Peach State Jags that they have at Southern. So just to give you some background. And they've got a few famous Georgians, which Keith Gamage, our Fulton County solicitor, is from Southern. And I'll give you all one, Mel Bluntz, who's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. You know, he went to Southern, but he lives in Georgia. All these folks live in Georgia. So that's part one of the tag of the Southern, and the other part is a special license plates honoring the Delta Sigma Theta sorority incorporated, and their funds raised will be going to the Delta Life Development Center, and the Delta Sigma Theta organization was formed in 1913, and the sorority hosted their 55th national convention here last year in Atlanta. And over 7,000 attendees participated in that. The mission of the Delta Life Development Center is to enrich the lives of low to moderate income residents in DeKalb County through the educational awareness program, economic development and empowerment initiatives, and civic responsibility. That is what that's where the funds for these two tags. Both organizations have done all of the paperwork, and they paid all the fees, and I just need a favorable vote.
And the DOR, I verified that all their requirements have been met on both of these plates. So
Yes.
Yes, sir. Number 29.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative,
Yes.
these license plates, would they be allowed to be placed on mopeds?
You know, that's a good question. If you bought a moped and you could get a Southern University and also a Beta Theta, a Delta Sigma Theta tag on it, we will. Mr. Chairman, I think he's messing with me about my mopeds.
Believe it or not, I had somebody else talk to me about that yesterday, so we'll be discussing that further. Number 19, Chairman Powell.
I need my memory refreshed. How much money on the cost of these tags are generated that would go to the organizations?
I'd have to go back and look at how it's set up.
That I couldn't tell you, but I tell you that what each organization had to participate, what had to give DNR was $25,000 or have pre-sales of 1,000 tags, which was roughly $25,000.
Mike could ask.
I might
Jim
ask
the
counsel.
split.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up. I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. I should by now. But I think it's 10. This is the lower split.
Yes,
Being put in the
right.
lowest split of all of them. I think it's 10 goes to the organization, the rest goes to the state.
I might ask further, how many tags do you think at that amount, how many tags do you all anticipate?
Oh, well, right now they've pre-sold over the Southern University is already probably almost pre-sold on roughly about 3,000 tags, and Delta Sigma Theta is probably about the same.
All right, any further questions? Now would be the time.
I recommend that we pass on substitute HB 255, LC number 394662S. Second for that.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. All right,
Thank you. Thank you, committee.
thank you. We're going to skip down to HB 551 right now. Chairman Ridley. If you'll tell us the sub we're working off of.
All right, we're working on sub LC 394664S. And House Bill 551, I think we've all heard over time about the misuse of the TOPS tags whenever somebody buys a car, and this kind of goes in to try to fix some of that stuff. We've got criminal organizations selling those out. They're using them in crime, so they ain't got a tag, and so this kind of is what we've come up with this bill to kind of try to fix that, and that's kind of what we're going to go through here. First change, Mr. Chairman, on line 26, we need to make a little adjustment right there where, and take the word loan out there where it says no person shall own, rent, or lease, loan, or operate a vehicle. We just need to remove the word loan out of that. And then it just goes in. Also, what this bill's also doing is, God, I lost my notes now, is also putting putting the used car board and the Department of Revenue, connecting them together. Department of Revenue has VIN numbers. The used car board, they need some of that stuff to be able to get together with them on when people's doing things wrong. And so it's going to be able to have those two connect. That's the only thing it'll be able to do is just the VIN number and vehicle information. No personal information or anything like that will be shared with the used car board. And then it's going to also put a little bit of, right now, the used car dealers and stuff, they're under the Secretary of State. It's also going to move them under a little bit under Department of Revenue, where they have a little bit of leeway over them to do some things. Let's see. And I think the other biggest thing that was done is it's set up on line
348.
Yeah, 348. On 348, you've got some brokers and stuff that we've had working out of, and we've had some testimony from the Secretary of State's office and their investigators, where we have people that's selling cars that's not really in the office. They're just kind of got a little door. Some of them you can't even turn around in. So one thing we did do on line 348 is they're going to have an office at least 250 square feet. So that's a legitimate office for somebody to sell out of. One other thing we need to do on line 347 and first part of 348, where it's crossed out, we need to add that back in, where it says they have to be furnished with a working telephone, listed the name of the license and the use of the conducting the business. That part needs to be added back into the bill.
And that, okay.
And then section 9 there, it gives a definition of a passive entity and how that's what that is. Basically, that's somebody from out of town that doesn't own property or anything, conducts business, assets. That's pretty much all the bill does.
All right. Do we have any questions? Yeah, who was first? Number 29, Chairman Weedow.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative, appreciate you bringing this bill. It's obviously some of the things you're dealing with in this measure we've been dealing with the last couple of years. I got some companionship language I look forward to your signature on here in a minute, because we need to rein this stuff in. And appreciate you being in the bill. And whenever it's proper time, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
All right. Now, I think we got number 19, but let's hold on a minute. Do we have anybody who would like to speak to this measure here today? I know I didn't put a sign-up sheet. Not seeing any. Number 19.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, you said are we moving this from the licensing board from the Secretary of State to the Revenue? You said it's just a little bit of something. Is this?
So they're not moving it under there. The Department of Revenue is just going to have access to some of the stuff that they need to share with
The
us.
used car board will have access to VIN numbers and not personal data. That's what we're doing, allowing them to share that data.
Was there any changes to? I've been astonished by the number of licensees there are during all the testimony and everything. And then, of course, I deal with a lot of the law enforcement folks, but I was astonished to know that in the state of Georgia we have 8,500 licensed used car dealers. I know that takes in a few like the manufacturers and there's a checklist of a lot of things on there. Having been a used car dealer once upon a time in my many careers, I have looked at a lot of the stuff that's created all of this problem with the tops and people evading the TABT taxes and things like that. But I'd made some inquiries to the licensing division, and Georgia has 8,500 licensed dealers. Now that's more than putting them on every corner just about. But then when we got into the broker business, I was kind of taken back the fact that a broker is a subsect of the used car business. And a broker is just someone that implements a deal between two parties. They're not a used car dealer. But yet these folks were getting dealer tags and had ready access to the TOPS tags. One of the issues that we know is that a lot of these brokers are operating in other states, and I think that's being cured in some of this. But my question would be, why do we need brokers?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll just be straight up with you. I've asked that question a whole lot. This is a very different bill than what we started out intending with, because just like you said, we've got people that's driving around with dealer license on cars are $250,000, $300,000 not paying taxes on them, and selling them after the year or swapping with some neighbors. And we've had testimony from law enforcement about that. But this is kind of all I could get out of it after the governor's office and everybody else got involved in it. So I think there's a whole lot that needs to be fixed, but everybody kind of get everybody in agreement, and this is kind of where we came to get everybody in agreement.
So everybody's in agreement to leave brokers intact.
Yes, sir.
Maybe put some guardrails around them.
Well, I've been trying to say that the brokers need to be a totally separate license. Is what I've been.
Or unlicensed.
Or unlicensed.
If a broker doesn't have access to the vehicle themselves, if you're a used car dealer and you're doing it legally, then you're supposed to have access to that title.
That's correct.
And that's the folks that they have the dealer plates and the TOPS tags and such. So, and the stories that I'm sure we're all sharing the same stories about an office that might have 4 or 5 brokers within one office.
That's correct.
But they have been accused, and I'm not saying this is true or false, that them having unfettered access to TOPS tags, that there's a suspicion that this is where a lot of the TOPS tags are hitting the market for folks to circumvent the purpose of the TABT. So that being said, I guess what you're telling me, that the powers that be don't want to do away with the brokers.
Would think that would be correct.
Would you be agreeable to a friendly amendment?
I would be.
Very good. At the proper time, I'd like to make a recommendation.
Okay, we've got a few more questions. Representative Alexander, number 15.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we mentioned the Department of Revenue. Are they here in any comments?
They are here. Y'all need to comment. Or if you have a question for them, I mean, there's something.
I was just wondering what their observation of the bill, or if there's any comments of it. Is they in agreement with it?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Joe Snow with the Department of Revenue. So to your question, we actually haven't seen the most recent LC, so I don't want to misspeak and say that we're good with everything. But to our knowledge, everything in this bill works to solve this problem. We have worked for 3 years on this very hard, and we'd really like to see something move forward. And I think what we've got here is at least a great start, if not a possible solution to the problem.
Thank you.
Number 17, Representative McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I hear correctly that we were moving from one department to another?
No, I'm sorry, I misspoke. That was one discussion that we've had, and I think that might be looked at in the future. But right now, that we're just going, the used car board will have access with the Department of Revenue on VIN numbers of vehicles and that kind of stuff, where they can kind of keep track of what's going on. Because right now you got like two different departments that's carrying everything, so nobody really knows what tag's going with what. So that's kind of what that way they can tell if somebody's misusing the tops or tags or whatever with the Department of Revenue, be able to see how many tags that person's printing out.
The investigators with used car boards, as presently, does not have that information, and the DOR cannot share that information with them.
Right.
But this will allow them to share with those investigators that with the used car board.
So I guess that was my reason, my question, Mr. Chairman. I guess data security, I didn't know if that was a concern at all.
But well, it is, and the only thing they can access is the VIN number, and none of the personal information.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, number 19, I think now.
I might ask Revenue Mike can give me an answer. I'm trying to, there's so much stuff over the years that's been changed because the used car board has passed a lot of rule and reg changes in their own right. If you have are a licensed used car dealer, what is their guardrails about the number of dealer plates? They still have a master plate, I presume, and
Correct,
they still
yes.
have
Actually, Robert,
subsequent
do you want to
dealer
answer that
plates.
one real quick?
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, so any dealer that is licensed, when they come to us for registration, they can get the master tag initially and 3 additional plates. And then based upon additional sales, if they have 20 sales, they can get additional 1 plate. So based upon their sales from the previous year.
And what about the tops tags? How many are they allowed to have?
Right now, our distributor of the plates manage that process. I was here a few weeks ago kind of talking about the process that we're putting in place this year that's going to limit the amount of tags based upon the amount of vehicles sold the previous year as well.
So we'll reach back into earlier life. So if I have a used car license, and I understand that they've made all kind of changes over the years, we used to have to show that we had an office, that we had a lot, basically, that justified that we were a used car dealer. I think that disappeared somewhere in history over the last several years. So with that number of folks, do we think that the 1 master and 3 other tags is appropriate, or should it be based on a sale basis? Any opinion from the department?
Well, of course, we issue based on current statute. That seems like a reasonable proposition, but we currently issue that 3 based upon what's in the law.
I guess what I'm saying, just to be quite blunt, folks that still maintain a used car license, whether they're active or not, they still have access to dealer plates that they may be running on their personal vehicles, is what I'm getting to.
That's correct.
Which is not the intent, and shouldn't be the intent. All right. And the tops is pretty well open-ended.
Currently, it is based upon how when they approach our distributor, they determine how many plates how many TOPs they can sell to them.
And that's not restricted by sales history or anything?
Currently, no.
And correct me, I believe you testified at a previous meeting we had where there's one dealer issued 20,000 tops in a short period of time. I believe that was the number.
Right, I believe one of our investigators, we do see folks who don't sell that many, and they can have 1,000 tops that are sold to them. We've seen that.
And that would be for used car licensee, or the subsect as a broker?
From our perspective, it looks the same. They're all used car dealers for registration purposes. We don't really have a broker kind of subdivision.
So brokers can get them too, but it's just, so it's open-ended on both, to use a normal dealer and a broker then?
That's correct.
All right.
No, did you?
I have an amendment for the consideration of the committee. I've been looking through this bill, and I think if you look on line 106, I'm not going to try to abolish this subsect of the brokers, but after further knowledge from the author of the bill, but on line 106, after the word vehicles, to add in the phrase, other than a motor vehicle broker. And on line 205, after vehicles, add the same, other than a motor vehicle broker. And if I'm correct, if the council bears it out, I think what that does is it basically does away with a broker having access to unlimited federal amount of dealer plates, since they don't need a dealer plate. Since if they're a broker, they're not into the actual business of having possession of that vehicle. And it also does away with the unlimited TOPS tags.
Does this affect any of the training or what that they would need to go through to be a broker?
If I was a broker, I wouldn't even want a license, because you really don't need a license to be a broker if you're implementing a deal between Representative Wiedauer and Representative Dewey, because you're not touching the vehicle. You don't have to have title in hand, so you can broker that deal and let them pay you for your services if that's what you want to do. But that way it steers us back to the actual legitimacy of the used car license dealer.
Jenna, did you get that?
Repeat the 206 line.
You're on line 106 and 2.
I got 106. I think
And on line 204, I'm sorry, after dealers, add that other than a motor vehicle broker.
I got a question.
And I don't know if I've missed the line somewhere else, if that needs to be in there.
That's right. That's right.
Beg your pardon?
Might offer that amendment.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm about to
Thank you.
There's no definition for broker.
To define that.
Yeah, either that or reconstructed to say other than a.
Let me see if I can find it in 43.
There's not a definition for broker, but in the licensing.
Right, I'm trying to find it so we can at least cross-reference it.
And I think it might be included in the definition of dealer or used car dealer, possibly, from previous years looking into this, I think.
Maybe if someone in the audience knows the code section, we should figure it out.
Two separate. You tell John.
Yeah, we did it.
I mean, I guess.
Right, man, come on up and help us.
26,
I said on, but I meant long. We're gonna add.
Good morning. The definition of motor vehicle brokers in 4347-2.
No. It's just long. Yeah.
And then, wait a minute.
Okay, so then just say as defined in.
Add back all the language that's struck out on line 347, 348.
Okay. I'll get you to read that back. So you've made a motion for an amendment to if Jenna, would you read that back?
Chairman Powell's is on line 106, between vehicles it shall insert other than a motor vehicle broker as defined in code section 4347-2, and then on line 204, between dealers and engage, inserting other than a motor vehicle broker as defined in 3472.
Is that 204 or 205? After dealers? Okay. All right, we have a motion for an amendment. Do we have a second? Okay, I think we have another amendment, two other amendments to make on, Representative Ridley spoke about on line 26. If somebody would make the amendment to strike the word loan.
Well, actually, yes, sir.
Yes.
We were talking about line 26 a little earlier, but we want to remove the word loan instead of the word own. Leave the word owned, O-W-N, in there, and we'd like to amend it by striking the word loan. And also, if you go to, just to make sure we're clear on line 347 and 348, we want to make sure we add back the language that is struck. Furnished with a working telephone listed in the name of the licensee for use in the conducting the business. Make sure we add that language back. That's struck.
Okay.
I'll put that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion on that. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion, a second. Okay.
Well, I found my pen.
All right. Let me, do we have a, I think we need a motion on the bill as well. Do we have a motion on the bill? Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Before we do a vote on the bill as amended, Jason, would you, I think, wants some comments.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Yeah, I would just like to clarify on I'm the chairman of the used motor vehicle dealers, and the term broker keeps getting thrown around. It is a misused term. Brokers are not licensed dealers currently. Everyone that's out there is currently a used motor vehicle dealer license. There is no wholesale license anymore. There is simply, you're either a used motor vehicle dealer or you are not. So when we're talking about issuing licenses to people in offices right now, they are dealers. They're not brokers. They have to, I understand your terminology, because it's really kind of some bizarre language that's in that, but it's currently wrong. And from the Secretary of State's office, everyone is issued used motor vehicle dealer. I think we have certainly spoken on this before. There are plenty of legitimate dealers out there who are in an office building. They operate off the internet. They're not the broker that you're thinking of, where they're basically negotiating a deal on behalf of someone else. They are actually going to the auction, buying vehicles, posting them online, and selling them, and transferring the titles, issuing tops, everything basically like they should be. Are there some bad players out there? Absolutely, and I absolutely 1,000% agree that the Secretary of State's office needs access to those VIN numbers for sales. When the inspectors go into a office and they request deal jackets, which is one of the things that they get to do. If the dealership currently says, well, we haven't sold any vehicles, we have no proof one way or the other. They could simply say, yeah, we haven't sold anything, so there's nothing to inspect. Or these are the deal jackets that we want. By gaining access to that, it basically gives a little bit more teeth to, well, we know you have sold vehicles. We know that mostly out-of-state dealers, which we would love to pass the driver's license issue on that for Georgia. But, you know, the issuance of tops illegally, everything else, without that part of the bill, it's impossible to enforce. So I absolutely strongly agree with that part of it. The broker, I'm just here to kind of clarify that they really don't exist like they do in other areas. I mean, is this helping any? Do you have questions?
I'm a little
Clear as mud.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused because, I was looking up something yesterday, and there's a litany of different types of licensees for you under the used car licensing. You've got manufacturers, you've got mobile home dealers, you've got motorcycle dealers, you've got parts dealers, you've got all of these various and sundry, and the broker, it says a broker is one of those. And to me, they're being, and I don't mean to demonize these folks, because I'm sure there's probably somebody that's legit, some of them are probably legitimate out there.
There are plenty.
But if they're not taking command of the vehicle themselves and the title, if they're sitting in an office, they don't have a lot. I think I understood, Joe, that somewhere the board changed the rules years ago, got rid of for years we always had to be defined as a used car dealer. You had to have a lot, an office and a lot. And I think they got rid of the lot part of that.
I think it was about 30 years ago.
And but the broker is still considered there. So if they're not doing any of these things, then they're implementing a deal. And to give these folks, and that seems to be where a lot of our tops issues are coming from, and that's from these brokers.
So all of these, if we take someone that's in an office, forget the size of the office, forget anything else. I go into business, I get licensed. I am assuming titles. I am going to the auction. I have my auction access card. I'm going to the auction. I'm buying these vehicles. I'm posting them, I assume, mostly online, and I'm selling them in kind of the grand scheme of the internet world. And so I'm delivering the vehicle, transferring the title. I'm doing everything basically that what you consider just a traditional lot type dealer would do. I think the issue there continues to be fraud. And I just always say, if I was making $100,000 a month on selling tops, I'd go get a lot if that was the requirement. I think the easiest thing to do is eliminate. The Department of Revenue currently has a thing that you have to have a Georgia driver's license or a surrounding area. Is that correct? That's correct. So if you're in Phoenix City, Alabama, you can get your master tags. What we would like to do, and it's kind of in the rules that have been passed, I'd love legislatively to say that you still have to have that same concept, so that someone who was coming down from the state of New York, Virginia, Idaho, doesn't matter, basically could not, number one, get a used motor vehicle dealer license, and number two, obviously at that point in time, could not get access to the Department of Revenue system.
Have other states, it seems like research, Texas, have done away with brokers completely, is that correct?
I don't believe Texas really ever had them. Some states still have office buildings. I mean, I hate to throw brand names under the bus, but anyone who's selling online, think of someone selling lots and lots of cars, national companies, they do not have display lots.
All right. Do we have any further questions? Thank you for your comments and information. I think now we're in the posture of, we've got a couple amendments that's been offered. So at this time, we have a motion, a second on the Powell amendment, I will call them. What's the pleasure of the committee? All in favor? Second. Let's do a hand show. All in favor? Raise. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that amendment passed. Now, the Smith amendments on lines 26 and 347, 348. All in favor? All opposed? All right, those amendments passed. Now we will vote on the bill as amended. All in favor of the bill as amended, raise your hand. All opposed? All right, bill passed. Thank you. I know we're running short on time. We got 12 minutes, and at this time, I'm going to ask if Representative Sharper, House Bill 369.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee.
And this is the first time we're hearing this, so we'll see what the will of the committee after we hear it. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman, committee members. Coming off of House Bill 369, LC 399001. Very simple and bipartisan bill. Comes from a situation that happened up near here in Atlanta, where everybody know that kids love ice cream, and we have a lot of ice cream trucks that are in several neighborhoods across Georgia. And lately, it's been more of them because some are offering more food items. But these are ones that are primarily in neighborhoods. But a child was getting ice cream as usual, happy to go out and get ice cream. But on the way back to his home, a car came around an ice cream truck and hit him. And so, it's one of those things as a paramedic, a couple things you don't want to see is, for one, a child going to a child, and after they've been in an accident and something like that has happened, or law enforcement, a lot of times as a paramedic, those stick with you, and those are calls that you don't want to see. But it's basically to get more visibility for a lot of the ice cream trucks that are primarily in neighborhoods. And then you will have the food trucks, they also serve food. But if you are primarily going into neighborhoods, these are the ones that we're saying to get more visibility. And you'll see that we're giving them up to January 2026 to fall in line with having 4 hooded or recessed red flasher lights, or 4 red flasher lights, 4 amber flasher lights mounted on the same horizontal center line as the red lights and the near center line. Basically, in respect of all this, we're not asking them to have an arm here on the side that says stop, because sometimes you have a long line of kids and a lot of the drivers like, oh my goodness, what I'm gonna do. But it's just saying that when they're proceeding to go around, to slow down, caution kids, and so it's more visibility so that the drivers behind them can be more cautious, because the kids, they do run out, after they get their ice cream and things like that. So that's what we're trying to do, is more of a safety bill. And like you say, with a lot of things that's happened financially, a lot of people are getting more into going into the neighborhoods and also, trying to make a living. So we respect that, but we just want them to do it safe.
All right, we do have a couple questions. Representative Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Am I understanding that your bill is requiring them to be equipped with all of this? And do you have a cost factor for a small business owner having to invest in this?
Well, when we look at it, a lot of them have a lot of things on the truck already, but with a cost, I would say with the amount of people that's going in the ice cream trucks and adding their extra food like seafood rice, little small things that now the parents want them, and so they're making enough money, I feel, as a business consultant, to be able to put these things in action. And they also have until 2026 to do this. So if this thing passes in July, it goes in effect, they still have another 6 months to get their money together to be a lot safer. And so,
if I may, Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I think, well, for the food trucks, I can agree with you. But for the ice cream trucks, I don't see that being a big business. And you're saying 4 hooded or recessed lights, then you want the signal arm.
Some of these are saying or.
They're
not,
or not.
They're or.
Okay, that was what I was asking for clarity on.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, that whole some of the expenses on it, yeah.
All right, number 17, Representative McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Representative Sharp, I guess I understand the bill. Like, my only concern is I didn't see a fee or a fine or anything that if someone was to pass it. I mean, I'm just trying to, is it, you're trying to get people to stop, but there's no fee or fine for passing like the school bus.
Right. No, we're not trying to get them to like totally stop, in a sense. We want them to slow down, be more cautious. You see, we don't want to put that on, like I say, you got a long line sometime in those neighborhoods, but we just want the driver behind them to be more cautious when they're actually, when they have to do pass.
Mr. Chairman, I guess, so would it be mandatory for all of the ice cream? Would it be mandatory?
It would be mandatory if their primary place of business is traveling through neighborhoods. So if you have a food truck and you go to different festivals and things like that, and you're not primarily going through neighborhoods, because you have some that do that, but if you're primarily in the neighborhoods, that's who's required to do this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I know I don't know what the cost would be. I share Ms. Taylor's concern for these existing ones. Would it be possible to add, if they got out and put cones out, and, you know, if that's something they could easily do. These existing trucks, other may have to retrofit it, and then I get from here on, any new trucks would have to have the arm possibly going in. Would that be, you know, something, and to Representative McLean's point of view, as far as the fine in here if they don't move over or slow down for this? And we're gonna have another hearing Friday, another meeting.
Okay.
If we can, you know, talk about this, and if we feel like you know, something can be done as far as the fines, and maybe give them another option as far as having to retrofit these trucks with an arm. I don't know if what that would entail, but if we possibly let them, you know, get out and put cones out or something, would.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. Probably, you know, trying to put cones out will take that much more time. If you got two kids that's waiting to get ice cream, is a whole nother deal now, saying, you know, it's not worth me stopping for one or two kids. I got to get out, get the cones out, then put the cones out, then get the kids, then go back, get the cones, put them back in. So that's more work. We're not trying to even demonize the drivers. We just want it to be more safe for the kids to get ice cream, because one thing we can say is a person that's going around these vehicles and they do kill somebody, they have to live with that for the rest of their life.
Yes.
So that's all we're trying to do, is be more safe. That's it, just like anything else.
All right. Well, at this time we're going to have another hearing Friday morning. Okay. Yes. Can we get with him offline? We got a couple more bills. We running out of time. We got somebody coming right in behind us. Can we between now and Friday, if we can do that? All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, where are we at? The House Bill 461, and I think we got the sub to that. Got here.
Apologize to everybody. Oh, a little too close to the mic there. Apologize to everybody that the sub got in a little bit late. Tis that time of year we're managing through. But the substitute you should be looking at, the LC number is 394668S.
Yes.
I just want to make sure everybody has that. Obviously, we heard this in committee last week, and based off of the recommendations of the committee, we've made a couple changes. We're just going to talk through them real quick. First one is line 58. We added the language, the observation of at least 2 light cycle changes. That was at the request of the chairman. The other major change that we made is we deleted those lines with the handlebar height of 25 inches or more. That still stays in code, which is the way it should have been. That was to address Representative McLean's question. One of the other things that we were caught in the hallway, and this is something I'd like to talk to the committee about, is there's concerns about this bill that that it would just be used as an excuse by motorcyclists to just run a light, and without going through the proper process. So line 38, to try and at least find some compromise on this, whether I like this compromise or not, we added at the term, or the words, at an intersection which utilizes recording image or surveillance technology. So basically that the police officer has an opportunity to go back and they can review the film. This is the only state that does this, and I have someone who wants to talk about it. There's a bunch of other states that don't have this requirement, but that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Do we have any questions for the author? Not seeing any. As it present stands, somebody's sitting there and it doesn't change, they're going to have to run the red light anyway. This at least.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Eventually they're going to run the light anyway.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that this committee do pass substitute to HB 461.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
We got 2 minutes. I'm going to ask Representative Bennett. House Bill 563.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much, and to the committee members, LC 461140. I believe we can do this in 2 minutes. This is a bill that will add licensed doctor of physical therapy to the professions that can write an affidavit for disability tag.
Okay, and can you give a list of ones that can do that now?
Yes,
I mean,
currently you have a licensed doctor of medicine, licensed doctor of osteopathic medicine, licensed doctor of podiatric medicine, licensed optometrist, licensed chiropractor, licensed advanced practice nurse, and physician assistant.
And this is just for the disability sticker on the tags.
Yes, this is so that they can validate that a person is in need of has a disability and would benefit from a license decal for handicap.
All right, we have a couple questions. Number 2, Chairman Prince.
Oh, at the proper time, I'd like to make a motion.
No. Ms. Taylor, Representative Taylor. Yes.
So, and I'm okay with this because the licensed chiropractor kind of runs kind of similar to what the therapists do. But are you saying that you're determining that you're diagnosing them as being disabled?
No, they would already have been diagnosed by a physician.
Okay, thank you.
All right. What?
We're not adding athletic trainers.
Not today, sir.
All right, Chairman Prince, all right, we have a motion do pass. We have a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign. All right, you have
Thank
your
you,
bill.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members.
Ms. Glaze, if you'll come forward, I know we got just a minute. We'll be back Friday as well. If you'll explain your bill, I think we might have one small change to add to the bill for its effective date on this. But go ahead, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, colleagues, for this committee. This is a simple bill. We're going into House Bill 583, LC 394651. This is to amend Code Section 40-285.1. And overall, this is a bill for veterans to have a second tag in the state of Georgia. And the reason this came about is I am a spouse of a disabled veteran, and each year when we get our one opportunity to get a free tag, we make different decisions about what vehicle it's going to go on. But what I tell you is that as a spouse, 40 years I've been in the service with my husband, but yet we only get the one tag to use in the family with our cars. And so I've gone around through several VFWs and asked, what would it take and how would you use a second? And 90% of those who are married said I would use it for my spouse. My husband said I'll use it for my motorcycle.
But the disabled service member could use that car as well at some
That
point.
is correct. And so actually today we're just asking to be inclusive so that the veterans would have that second tag so they could use for their spouse or their motorcycle, as my husband would. And so this is simple, and it would just codify, and only 4 lines would change, and it would change from 1 tag to 2 tags.
All right, number 12, Representative Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, at the proper time, I'd like the motion to pass.
All right, seeing no further questions, I think the only change we would like to make to this, I think, would be the effective date. Is DOR here? Is that we need to make a change? Or are we okay with this?
Yes, in reviewing the bill, I think the disabled veteran
Yes.
issue came up. I believe that's in a different code section. So if that needs to be added as one of the plates that gets an additional.
Okay, so do we need to make a change to?
Right, I believe this is for different types of veteran plates, but not specifically for the disabled veteran.
Okay. Okay, so we're good with what we got here.
Well, if disabled veterans are another group that should get an additional free plate, then it should also be added to that portion, I believe.
Okay. Can we do this, let's get together and get with DR, let's get the language we need, and we'll have you in Friday, and we get this out. All right, thank you. Meeting's adjourned.